After a frantic first two rounds, the drivers will get to relax with their first non-points round of the season. The only catch is we're at Detroit. One of the most punishing and demanding tracks on iRacing. Relaxing is not the term most would use to describe it. Who will come away with bragging rights on this one? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch the brawl at Belle Isle, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is IMSA driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Daniel Costello. And of course, we always have Dougie Beard with the cameras. Sadly, this is another circuit which has seen the end of the road come in the real world, but with it preserved here in iRacing, let's take a closer look at our track. Welcome to the Belle Isle Street Circuit. Situated in a beautiful park on Belle Isle itself, it rests in the Detroit River, sandwiched between the Motor City and Canada. With it being in the far north of the Midwestern United States, as you'd expect, harsh winters make this a bone-jarringly bumpy track. It's most known for IndyCar's yearly visit, but has also seen IMSA hold rounds here lately. The 14 narrow corners only add up to a mere 2.3 miles in length, but it can tend to feel like a lot more just from the sheer stress of keeping your car out of the walls. Runoff is non-existent in the majority of corners, so mistakes tend to be punished with race-ending damage. The dangers include the tight and twisty fountain section with its rapid-fire set of bends, and the frightening turns 12 and 13, which end the lap with two swift kinks. However, the most notorious spot on the track is the exit of Turn 2, made famous by collecting the Corvette pace car into its hungry walls one year. The first two turns are a quick chicane, so the extreme change of direction, plus the rise in the track as it crosses over a creek, means grip and balance can disappear in an instant. While the setup of the car can sometimes help lessen the annoyance of the bumps a little, what this place all comes down to is driver skill and daring. Precision will pay off with the close proximity of the barriers. While it isn't a stroll in the park for drivers, fans get to enjoy the beauty of the scenery, all while watching some of the most thrilling racing an American street course has to offer. This is a tough one. I think it's going to be a good thing that we have 3 races to run, because otherwise we might see a lot of cars out very early here, Joey.
It is an extremely punishing racetrack out here, the Detroit Belle Isle track, as you see 14 turns, just under 2.5 miles in length. And you're right, Joe, it gets right to it off at turns 1 and 2. I mean, for everybody that witnessed the pace car crashing just a handful of years ago over the Apex Crest bump there, doesn't matter if it's the concrete curbs, you know, the narrow wall confines, or the big Apex curbs later on in the lap. You always have to watch your marks here. I think the only good thing that we've got is these cars not going to be doing tremendous top speed, so I think we might have some really good racing here at Detroit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is going to be a good fit for this track, but as I said, we've had 2 rounds of the championship. Now, last one was a bit odd because they only had 2 races, so it's not quite what you'd expect. But as we take a look at the points currently, Stephen Vervian is currently on the top of the points. Stuart Ross is the one behind him by about 13. And then Shane Vickery is trailing by 16 points, only a single one between himself and Keenan Harris. From there, you get a little bit of a jump to Ben Walid, and then look at the fight between Kluban, Ohayon, and Bazugli, with a single point between the 3 of them, tied as well between Joseph Yang and Stephen Negovin. So certainly some close battles there, but none of the points are going to be scored tonight. This is just an update on the driver standings as they sit. We'll, of course, bring that to you again when we go to Zandvoort in case anybody is not here for this race. However, let's go to the team standings as well. Joey, how's that one right now?
Right now, Gladiator Road Racing stands on top with 191 points, but actually pretty close battle for what is second place between these 3 teams: Britain West Motorsports, Lima Garage, and Jafterman's Garage here in the 4th place position. Little bit of a gap from then on back, but you see it closes up further, 5th through 9th, only separated by about 40 points or so. I feel like it's going to be anybody's game, especially with 3 rounds per event, Joe. It's going to be about consistent finishes.
Yeah, there's a lot to earn each event. Now, for today's race details, there's no change from our normal, and thankfully it is going back to the normal layout for this, as it's going to be 3 sprint races at 15 minutes each. And of course, they have a top 10 invert for race number 3. With there being only 10 cars right now, they have time for more to sign up before qualifying is over. Well, whoever wins is going to be starting from last place. No spare car, though, in each of those 3 races. So, yes, you'll get a reset when we come to each subsequent race, but if you wreck it and have too much damage to carry on, basically your sprint is over and you have to wait until the next green flag. Drive-through penalty at 12 incidents and a DQ at 17. Not likely to see drivers hit those limits in this race because of the nature of a street circuit. So that is more of a concern, I'd say, at other places than it is here up on the just beside the shores of Canada. We, of course, have our pit reporter with us once again. Daniel Zippy Salmon is out there. Zippy, one of the things we've been talking about a lot is, of course, the closeness of these walls, and open wheelers tend to not like making wall contact.
Well, there's definitely no forgiveness with these cars. If you're going to clip a wall, it could be a race-ending mistake. But as we've seen from the quality of racing so far, these guys, they can get within inches, even millimeters of one another. We saw that demonstrated brilliantly last week. Gord Ross, super fantastic drive from him. But I'm really hoping that we're going to see 3, maybe even 4 wide in some sections of this track. I do wonder which corners are going to be the bottleneck, but I'm sure we're going to be finding out before too long.
Yeah, that's for sure. Right now in the qualifying, Nick Horvath is currently on the pole by about a 10th over Mitchell Welker, who's not out on the track currently. So we'll see if he wants to go out there in this last minute or two, try to put one in. He's probably got just enough time here. No, actually he doesn't, because they can't complete the hot lap. So he's done. He cannot steal that away from Horvath. Only Stuart Ross and those behind him can try and pip him to the pole. And I got to think that, Joey, track position probably going to be pretty important today.
I think not only track position, but survival, which I guess they go hand in hand, don't they? Because usually if you have good track position, you've got the clean air. As you see Stuart Ross there bang the wall on the left side, have to abandon the lap. And it can be just as simple as that. You know, a car banging the wall in front of you, and if you don't have that track position, all of a sudden you can be gathered up in a wreck that's not even yours out there. So, yeah, I think the further up front, the better off you are.
So they're running 137s on the quickest cars here. Once we hit that time, that's basically everybody on their final lap. As we're watching Horvath continue on around, looks like he is going to be able to do this one, but will he be able to get another in? Because it's going to be a little close here as he exits out on through Sunset Drive up towards Casino Way. And no, this is his last lap. Is it going to be any quicker? No, this one gets deleted. So that's it for Nick Horvath. What about behind him? I see Keith Lobbin getting ready to complete his here, Joey. So let's see if he's got anything underneath him.
Yeah, trying to see exactly where he is while we've got Connor on the screen. Here comes Keith down through this section of Detroit. And this is actually a pretty interesting camera view because, Joe, I don't even know where on the racetrack he is.
This is coming down Central Avenue here towards turn 3. So that's it for him. He actually did not improve on that last one. Zachary Buchanan did on his previous lap, but not this time. So the 40 is now done with qualifying. And Keenan Harris looks like he's going to be the next one approaching. We're riding on board with Connor here, who looks like he's tracking 5/10 to the good, and he's getting a little bit of a tow from Stewart.
And this might be an opportunity for him to jump up. The start-finish line is just around here as he crosses underneath. Does he go faster? Yes. 37.6 jumps him up to 4th place.
It could wind up being quite valuable here because if you start from the back in any of the races, you're going to be up against it for sure. I think that might be it, because Nick Horvath is the next one to come through, and we saw him cross the line a little bit too late. So there you see Mitch Welker just kind of cycling around, I suppose, for some more practices. The laps come down to 0, and we head off now to our first race. So the grid as they stand is going to see Nick Horvath on the pole. Mitchell Welker will be in second, and Stuart Ross will be third. Connor Janitas will be in the 4th position. Michael Broomhead, P5. Dave Peterson, 6th. And Keenan Harris, P7. Zach Buchanan starts 8th. Keith Lobbin in 9th. And Craig Willis will round out your 10 cars. Thankfully, looks like pretty good conditions at only 88 Fahrenheit on the track, Joey.
Could be pretty mild out there. It shouldn't be slip sliding around too much here at Detroit, although we'll have to keep an eye on it, because if it goes up maybe 100 degrees or so on the track temperature, which it can, might have to back up those brake markers, be a little bit more careful on those apex speeds.
So as they get ready here, coming down to the green soon. Standing start in this series, just waiting on Connor and Craig, it looks like, to put themselves on the grid. Once they do that, we'll be ready to go. Hopefully they can make it through those first few corners and through turn 3 a little better than we've seen some series do in the past. It can often get a little bit cluttered and a little messy into there for sure. Looks like Craig is out there. Connor going to be the last one to line up. They get 2 minutes to place themselves on the grid here, and then after that, it'll start without them. Everybody's ready to go of our 10 drivers in our first non-championship round. Engines start to rev as the lights come up, and the green flag is out. Nick Horvath off the line, looking decent-ish, but Welker starting to come up his inside. Is it enough as they come into Casino Way? Doesn't quite look like it. He'll be switching back around the outside as they go over the bridge, and already attacking on the inside. That's Stuart Ross.
We've got 3 wide down towards turn 3. Are going to make a 4 wide with Janitas right behind. Who's going to be the latest on the brakes? It looks like Welker all the way on the inside. Here comes an over-under from Stuart Ross. Still 3 wide.
An over-under with 3 cars. I don't think I've seen that in some time, and he's going to get it. Our pole sitter is going to fall all the way to 5th as he has a little bit of a slide coming through turn 4. He holds on to it. Amazingly, still no accidents. This is fantastic racing, Joey.
Yes, it is, and it's about to run onto the back straightaway. Stuart Ross trying to escape from Mitchell Welker, but here he comes. Look at the run from the 76 car.
Coming down into turn 7 now, the fountain section. It gets very narrow, and here battle for P3 between Connor and Keenan. Connor going in a little deep. Are we going to see a switch back here from Keenan? No, can't quite get in there as Ross now falls into line behind Mitch Welker. There's the cut back as they go 2 wide through the fountain section. Probably one of the few cars can actually fit that through here, and it looks like Keenan will get P3.
Little bump from Connor to Keenan there through that really slow speed corner. You see kind of the train that's forming up behind him. And Joe, I agree with you completely. The racing that these cars are producing in Detroit is great.
I'll have to make a note of this one. More series need to try and line up these cars here. Ooh, almost banging wheels now between Connor and Broomhead. Broomhead trying to challenge down into turn 1, but is he going to be able to complete the pass? The car behind him, I think, just clipping the wall. Didn't quite make out who that is. And a little bit of a tangle now between Connor and Michael, allowing Horvath to get 4th back.
Yeah, Nick Horvath taking advantage. Another one of those over-unders times 2. Joe, Nick Horvath taking advantage. And look at this. It's staying busy. I think one of the reasons it's so good is these are extra large go-karts on the street.
Exactly. Sounds like from the pits, there was a perfect view for Zippy on that incident through turn 1. Who was that caught the wall?
Just seen Dave Peterson. He had a little bit of a nudge. Just a smidge. He seems to be doing okay, but he did fall back through the field a little bit.
Well, glad he's at least able to keep going. And yeah, trying to check. It looks like he is in 8th position as we ride on board with Michael Broomhead now. Still down in 7th, sitting behind Zach Buchanan and Connor Janitas. And coming into turn 7, they're going to get nose to tail. That's going to turn Zach. He goes completely around. They scatter to avoid. I think we've avoided a major wreck.
Yeah, a couple of them here. You see Zach Buchanan still trying to get pointed the right way after getting spun around. I think I saw Michael Broomhead in the 00 just get in a little bit too deep, lock up, and unfortunately Zach Buchanan was right there.
So as they continue around the last couple corners back to the main straight, it is Welker leading Ross by about a second, but we're watching Keenan Harris here ahead of Nick Horvath, and there is Dave Peterson now trying to play catch up with those that had that incident. He's still in 8th place. He's got Craig Willis to his outside as they try to outbrake one another into turn 1, but it's going to be Dave Peterson that grabs P7.
Oh, but he makes contact with the wall coming out of turn 2. We jump up to Nick Horvath here, making the move around Keenan Harris. So we saw Nick Horvath fall back a little bit, but he's definitely got speed in the car. He's moving forward, and I'm looking at the lap times, one of the faster cars on the racetrack.
Yeah, and he's not got much time for it, of course, as they're only going to get 15 minutes. I know it says it's limited to 15 laps, but don't think they're going to be able to complete all of those within these 15 minutes. You've raced against Horvath, the Zippy. Are you surprised to see him to be able to charge back through as well as he has?
Honestly, not in the slightest. This guy can really drive. Like, we've got a few drivers from the Radical series, and I'm expecting to see great things from him. And I think this is just the start of what's going to be a really, really good season for him here in the Formula Fords.
So Welker still ahead of Ross here. And did we have a problem with Laban, I think, coming down into the fountain section? I think he got into Craig Willis, who seems to have had a spin, the two of them with major contact.
Unfortunate for those two cars on the racetrack. You see Keith Laban now going, but yeah, way off pace a little bit earlier. And I agree with Zippy, Joe, that I think Nick Horvath is a man on a mission. He's tracking about a second faster that last lap, and he just threw down, I think, the fastest lap at a 137.5, although Stuart Ross just eclipsed that.
Yeah, he's gone purple, and Keith Laban has gone into the pits, unfortunately, so we'll maybe chuck it over to Zippy to see if he's able to get that car back out and rolling in a second. In the meantime, Ross is making a race of it. He's within 0.6 of a second and not falling away, and I think now we've had something happen to Connor Janitas in the 44 as well.
Oh, you're right. I see Connor having some problems here. Heavy nose damage on the car, but I didn't see any other cars around him when that took place, so I think he just went in too deep here. As we jump back up, Stuart Ross definitely putting some pressure on our leader.
And it sounds like we got information on Zippy on what happened to that car. Zippy, talk us through the replay here.
So as I watched the replay, he came in, he was a little bit loose, a little bit slidey. The car started to over-rotate a bit, he slammed on the brakes, the nose just went straight in, and he ended up going backwards into the wall. Poor guy.
Looks like it definitely knocked the toe out on the tire and had to tow. So it was all kinds of cockeyed there, could not drive it back to the pits. Back to our leaders once again. Ross has not only made a race of it, he's starting to put some great pressure on Mitchell Welker here. Both of them up 1 from the start. Ross going to try and make it up 2. He's got 8 minutes left, so about half the race to go.
And we got to remember, Stuart Ross was the driver that made that great 3-wide over-under incident on the first lap. So I think we've got a fantastic race that's just about to brew over.
A bit of a look, but not able to quite do it, so he backs out of it. Now he's going to try and see if he can come up the outside down into turn 4. Forces Welker to go defensive, cuts back underneath him. No dice still. Welker doing great moves, but he slides a little bit. Car's going to be slow off the apex. Stuart Ross, is he going to set him up onto the backstretch? Another over-under potentially. No. Well managed by the 76. He remains ahead.
You caught that. He was kind of missing some apexes, slip sliding around through that section, and I thought that he wasn't going to get that run out onto the back straightaway that he needed to, but he gathered up, put the power down, and now he's comfortably, now I say comfortably, out in front by maybe about 6 inches.
I was going to say, that doesn't look too comfortable, and look at that. Once again, a pass in the fountain section. You almost never see this happening, and now twice in one race, we've seen it attempted. Still around the outside as Stuart Ross is going to try and complete it now. Sounds like we've had a crash in the background. We'll get to that in a second. Don't come together. They're so close, almost interlocking wheels into 12 and 13, and somehow they hold it out. Fantastic respect here between them, Joey.
They're still side by side. I don't think Mitchell Welker's going to give this up going into turn one. Who's going to break deeper? It's Welker that's going to take it, stay in the lead. Now it's Stuart Ross. Gotta careful not tangle those wheels. Oh, so close coming out of two.
Just about banged into the wall. Many drivers have done it up and down the skill level, so it wouldn't be too shocking to see that happen, but he avoided it for now. Another defensive move down into turn three from Mitchell Welker, and a brilliant cutback and over-under for Stuart Ross as he finally got it done with a second right-hander. No, wow, I can't believe Mitchell is still with him, and he's going to get rewarded with the inside. Down into turn five. Oh, a little bit of a nudge maybe between them, and I'm not sure if Stuart caught the wall. Oh, that time he did, and somehow he keeps the car rolling, but how much damage came off of that?
That was a tough one. That was contact on the inside and outside, but I'm looking at the speeds here. I don't see that he's tracking really any slower than a poor exit. So I think Stuart Ross, take a deep breath, evaluate the car. You might have got away with one.
Woo, he was right up against it. You don't get much closer than that. And it sounds like we've got a replay for Connor. Let's see. No, is this... Oh, just got into the wall and unfortunately collected another one. I think that may have been Zach Buchanan. Yeah, that's the 40. Now,
go ahead, Joe.
No. I was going to say, it sounded like Zippy had some updates on a few other drivers that have had some incidents. I mean, so much has been happening at the front. Zippy, what's going on farther down in the field?
Oh my gosh, there is racing everywhere on the track right now. So I was watching Dave Peterson. He was having a really good time with what's his name? Nick Horvath, sorry. Sorry, Nick. Dave gets past Nick gets past Dave, and all is going well. And then it's the same corner where Craig Grillis went off. We had a similar experience, and as you can see, look, the nose has just gone and just round she goes. But then Nick's gone and pitted after as well. But thankfully, he still seems to be running in fifth.
Yeah, they've got a spare car, it looks like. So he's gone in, taken that, and he's come back out. As I thought I saw another car in the wall there for a second on our feed, but I guess not. As
our leader.
Oh, so my eyes did not deceive me. That was Welker into the wall, and after all that hard work, Ross only has to breeze by him down the backstretch.
Now, fingers crossed here. Here goes Welker really deep into that corner off of the back straightaway, and I think that I've been pretty proud of this little Formula Ford 1600 car. It's bouncing off these walls, and the thing seems to be keeping straight.
I mean, it's supposed to be for those up-and-comers, so I guess it's probably made to be a little bit sturdy here. And, yeah, a fantastic job from Ross. He's managed to take the lead even after he's had a few run-ins with the wall, just little brushes. Now, here's the question. What's Welker's car like after that? He certainly seems to be back on it pretty quickly.
I think they're both okay, because here's Welker already taking advantage. Stuart Ross had a poor exit out of the final turn, and Welker's going to push the limit here around the outside of turn one. Is he going to complete the pass? Contact between our front two.
Both of them come together, and into the wall they go. Keenan Harris laughs his way into the lead as he inherits it from both of them. After all that hard racing, it came to naught. I'm not sure what the feelings are between those two, but it was great up until it wasn't.
Oh, that was a tough one, but like you said, Keenan Harris kind of just taking advantage, saw the two leaders wreck, avoided it nice and clean. All of a sudden, he's got nothing but clean racetrack in front of him.
And a driver who's been missing for some time has found himself on the podium. Zippy, you were telling us earlier about Mike Broomhead being away for a little bit.
Yeah, he wasn't able to make the first 2 weeks with family commitments, but it's good to see him back in the car now. But this just goes to show where we've seen the battle between first and second. Sometimes it can actually be advantageous to keep your nose out and just wait for incidents to happen.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Keenan, with his patience, has seen it pay huge rewards here. So now Broomhead up into second and Horvath back up into third, but he was our pole sitter. He probably wants more than that at this stage. And in fact, we're not that far away from the finish. So let's take a look at this one, Joey, as this is the initial thing that kind of set it all alight.
Yeah, I think he actually clipped the apex curb. So deja vu between Stuart Ross and then Mitchell Welker on how that all started.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, that kind of put him on the back foot, and then he was aggressive here into turns 1 and 2, and, well, you saw the results. So Michael Broomhead behind by about 2.7 seconds. I think Keenan is on the penultimate lap, if I'm seeing the timing correctly. I don't think he crossed the line in time, but we'll find out soon enough here, because it's only about a minute left before we do see the clock hit 0. And with the gap that he's got over Broomhead, I think he's only just got to cruise home.
I think so, and if we look at the timing and scoring, you're right. He's just got to cruise home, hit the marks, not go too fast into any of these braking areas, not go too fast in the minimum speed apex corners, and just hit those marks, cruise it on home here for another half lap, maybe lap and a half. We'll see.
Oh, and he's not doing that as he gets the wall. Keenan is into the wall, our latest leader, and just narrowly avoiding him. Michael Broomhead somehow squeaks by and is now going to be in the lead of this race. What a return.
And I'm watching Keenan Harris. He's still trying to get it going back here. He's still stopped. I think Nick Horvath might inherit second place. Keenan Harris still not moving. Michael Broomhead is going to go win this thing.
Yeah, Horvath now up into P2. Broomhead, is this going to be checkered flag here? 10 seconds left to go. He's right at the end of it. It may have gotten the white flag if Keenan had managed to come around. As he's trying to slow. He's trying to bring it out here. And was that the checkers? No, he's going to have to go around another lap. Now, he had 19 seconds, more than that actually, to Nick Horvath. So he's a bit lucky that he was able to play those games, but it didn't quite pay off. You have to get the white flag before you get the checkers in the iRacing sim. So since it hadn't been handed out yet, I guess the sim did not consider that the last lap.
It's just considered a victory lap out there for Michael Broomhead as we're watching Keith Lobbin. Remember, he was in the pits not too long ago. He's going to come home with the top 5 potentially, but Michael Broomhead, recovery drive. Remember, he was having some contact earlier on. He was missing nose pieces, and here he is going to collect the first race win.
And it looks like Keenan's, well, I thought he took his spare car, or did he just have a black flag? Well, he's got a black and orange flag, but he doesn't have enough laps that he needs to worry about it. So maybe he drove in, decided, I don't need to really take repairs. Let's just bring it home, because he's still going to get a podium.
Even with the drive-through, that's a bold strategy.
It wound up working, I suppose. And this man, Michael Broomhead, probably cannot believe his luck after this one. Now, he will start from the top spot as well, let's not forget, because the grid is going to be determined by the finishing order of this first race. And then, of course, the third race will be a reverse of our finishing order. So if he finishes on the lead for the second one, then he's going to find a little bit of a harder time. But this time, finding it falling in his lap, it's going to be a win in race 1 for Michael Broomhead.
Congrats to the 00. And let me tell you, Nick Horvath is still banging walls back here. It's not over for the podium. You see him scraping the wall coming out. He will claim second place, but Keenan Harris back there in the number 18 doing the same thing.
Well, we talked about it a lot, Joey. So much of this track comes down to keeping your nose clean, and I think this first race was a very harsh lesson for many drivers.
Well, and you look at this car. I mean, his car is busted. Look at the left rear, the rear suspension on Keenan Harris's car. You're right. He's still going to collect the podium, but at a very slow pace.
Yeah, let's see what lap winds up being for him here as he crosses the line. Oh, it doesn't count because of the black and orange flag, so we'll never know, unfortunately. And then behind him, Connor, still in this thing, finds himself with a 4th. Lobbin is the last one on the lead lap. As that, like you described, limping the cars home here, maybe perhaps licking their wounds before they take to the grid for that second race.
Well, good thing that all of these cars and drivers have, what, 3 cars lined up in the trailer? Just load the next one onto pit lane. Let's go.
Exactly. That's the beauty of sim racing. Doesn't cost you anything for that next car. Just roll it out and get back in it and try to do a little better next time. Lobbing the last one to the line. And that will give us our finishing order and our grid for the next one. So this is essentially the same. We won't have to go through this twice. And on the pole, Michael Broomhead will be flanked by Nick Horvath. Can he do a better one and finally take that win? Keenan Harris will start from third, and Connor Janitas will be fourth. Keith Lobb in P5 will have Dave Peterson in at sixth. Next row sees Stuart Ross in seventh, Mitchell Welker in eighth, Craig Willis in ninth, and Zach Buchanan will start from 10th and last on the grid. Already lining up here, Joey, and based on what we saw, I'm looking forward to this because that was fantastic stuff in that first race.
Well, especially with Mitchell Welker, Stuart Ross starting towards the back of the field, it's going to be action-packed right here, and we're about to get it going.
Indeed, the lights are up, the engines are revving, and the green flag is out. It is not a good start for Michael Broomhead. He is slow off the line. Horvath going to try and stick his nose up the inside of turn one, and he takes the lead by the time they get through it.
Horvath to the front, and here comes the over-under. Oh, no, I think that's Connor Janitas with some contact back there between himself and Broomhead. Now we've got side-by-side between Janitas and Lobbin.
As Keenan Harris, he got into the back of, but Keenan had a great exit. He's going to fight for second. They're going to tangle wheels behind them. Somebody overshot turn three, and they managed to get away with it. It looks like Stuart Ross was the one that went a little wide. He'll get it turned around and keep going. Oh, and what happened to Keenan Harris there? He suddenly slowed down.
Keenan back here in third place. I think he's just getting it all warmed up underneath him. Michael Broomhead up in second, and you were right. That was Stuart Ross that locked up all four. Had to take to the escape road in turn three.
He's got a lot of work to do now. He's a whole 12 seconds behind the leaders already as we fly down into turn 7. Fight for third place between Janitas and Harris. Harris cuts back underneath him. He likes that side-by-side move here through the fountain section. He's going to try it, but he can't get the throttle down.
It really is like watching big go-karts in here. You know, they're throwing it into these street corners and just waiting for the thing to grip up. It really is good racing.
And here comes Mitchell Welker. I'm sure he's kicking himself for losing a potential win there on the last one. Look at this racing behind him. Peterson, Buchanan, Willis, almost 3 wide there. They come out of turn 13 somehow with their car still whole.
Craig Willis was on the losing end of that one as we jump back up. This is, I believe this is Keenan Harris up here in 5th place. Mitchell Welker making those moves, trying to get towards the front. He's being a little bit more calm and collected this time.
Absolutely is, as we watch with Keenan Harris looking forward to Mitch Welker. That Janitas in front of him there in the white car as well as they slide down into turn 3. A little wide for Connor. Mitchell knows it. He's all over his tail.
Lip sliding around is kind of the name of the game. It's throwing the car in the corner, waiting for it to grip up. But if you throw it too hard, get too sideways, you definitely bleed off too much speed. And look at this, Mitchell Welker with a really good exit, already pulling up alongside Connor Janitas. He's going to be driver's right going into the brake zone, the preferred line.
Along the strand, he's got that inside line, as you said. Can he finish it up, though? We've seen side-by-side go badly here. Nope, he's going to make a nice, clean pass. That'll move him into third. My big question is, can he catch Horvath, though? Because Nick has been just skipping away from everybody.
You're right, and he's got clean air. He doesn't have to worry about anybody behind him, but I think it's going to be about the mistakes today. Can Nick Horvath keep it clean? And if so, it will be tough to catch him, but I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of Mitchell Welker. He took his time. Oh, problems further back.
Oh, that's going to be Peterson. Looks like Willis involved, and they catch out Keith Lobbin. Eventually, through it all, Stuart Ross splits the middle and finds his way through the wreckage.
Oh, Stuart Ross just kind of stumbled upon 4 cars and the seas parted, and he just took them all and was like, okay, still got a mountain to climb, but I'll take them.
Much like another famous steward, he says, look what I can do, and just comes right through. He's now up to 6, but he's got a lot of ground to make up as it's a battle between Welker and Broomhead, forcing him off the line. Into the grass goes Broomhead, giving up the inside down into turn 4, and Welker now up into P2. He's now got the clean air he needs. What can he do to Horvath?
Well, before we had that incident, I was getting ready to say I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of Mitchell Welker out here. He's taken his time. He's moved up smoothly and cleanly. He hasn't been overshooting corners when he's been making those overtakes. I think he's being very smart about this one.
Okay, so Connor still in this. It's nice to see him still a threat, along with Keenan Harris, too. A lot of drivers here that were looking pretty quick in that first race. So let's now go, of course, to the replay of the big wreck. Zippy, talk us through what happened here.
Oh my gosh, it was an absolutely crazy. My sympathy is Stuart, but this corner's been catching a few of the guys out. 1 went, 2 went, 3 went, and yep, you get 4. You got the complete, all the eggs out the basket, and then Ross just comes along and goes, thank you very much.
I mean, it was great heads up from him. Everybody else kind of piled in and just he found the opening. But now we've looked at Connor here in that 4th position, not letting Broomhead away. Welker starting to stretch a little bit, though. That last lap, a 38.0 for Mitchell, his first time in clear air, and he made good use of it, setting his personal best. It was 0.6 quicker than Horvath.
I really like what you were scheming about last lap, Joe. You're right. Nick Horvath is out there. He's just got to keep it clean, mistake-free, and he should be able to win this thing. But Mitchell Welker, he's going to go apply a lot of pressure towards the end of this one.
0.6 per lap in last race was 8 laps, was it? No, it was 10 laps, I think, in the end for our drivers. So it's they've got a little ways to go here, and honestly, I think Welker could be close enough to close this down if this remains a straight fight. We're going to watch from Keenan Harris's perspective here as he sits at the back of the train. He did use the opportunity last race, Joey, to just kind of pick up spots as those in front of him wrecked. Is he going to do the same thing again?
Well, right now, he does have Janitas and Broomhead right in front of him, and from the amount of mistakes that we saw in heat number 1 compared to the second heat, I think this has stayed pretty clean. And I think one thing that's working for these 3 cars, Joe, is Mitchell Welker staying super clean, kind of leading these guys, the carrot in front of the train.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think Horvath got the memo. He just set a 38.1, which is 0.5 faster than his previous lap. But Welker, a 37.5. I believe that's the fastest lap of the race so far for the 76 for anybody out there. And he's cut it down to 2.3 seconds now. So he is a coming.
Well, and 7.5 minutes remaining. Oh, and Nick Horvath, our leader, bumps into the wall a little bit. Those are those mistakes. You just got to limit that. We've seen the car be able to bounce back. So take a deep breath. Just hit the next one. Okay.
Well, he's very close to home soil here and wearing that Canadian flannel. Can it bring him home nice and warm and tidy to the win? As we take a look back at Connor, he's been getting ever closer to Broomhead. And I know, Daniel, Zippy, you've been kind of watching that. What's been going on here in this fight?
So I'm watching the pair of them, Mike and Connor, and it's been really good so far. If you do make a little mistake, like even taking a little bit more curb, I'm finding when Mike does that, Connor's been able to just get a little bit on him, but then in the next corner, Connor maybe goes a little bit wider. So it really is tit for tat at this point, but they both seem to be staying with Mitchell there. So hopefully, they can both get a bit of a toe up towards Horvath. Oh, and he slid it. Damn.
So there you go. Easy for that to happen, but I think, did he keep it out of the wall? Yeah, I think he just barely did. Let's take a look at Keith Lobbin, though. Wonder if we could get a replay of Connor, because, boy, he was close to that wall as well. First, we're going to see what Keith did in turn 3. Loops it around. Does he get a full 360? Nope. He's going to have to do a bit of an awkward turn.
Oh, That's got to be tough on the spine with those seats there, jumping over that curve. And it's always amusing trying to spin around like 100 horsepower, trying to get, the wheel spin out of the car when you got the tires all warmed up. You got to get a little creative with it.
Man, I'm pretty certain that Horvath is hustling like no other now. He's cut it down now to 37.6 that time, but it was a 37.4 for Welker. Nick has found, he must have been just taking it easy up there, because I don't know how he's found another gear, and there's another clip for Connor, as we saw.
I think all of these cars, all the drivers are just pushing the limit, and it's to keep up with that really, really good pace our two front leaders are putting down, because Mitchell Welker...
Horvath has hit the wall, and there he is right there. He got clipped, I think, by Broomhead. Maybe everybody else has managed to avoid it, but there goes the lead, and Welker now finds himself on the points.
So unfortunate for Nick Horvath. We were just talking about it. He just had to keep it clean out there, and unfortunately, Detroit strikes again. Mitchell Welker this time there to pick up the pieces.
Oh, man, it is a rough town, and the track is just as difficult here as they are bringing it right up to the edge. Did Connor smack the wall again there? Acted a little slow for a second. Wasn't sure if maybe he had some trouble.
Sure. I know that they've all been flirting with those walls. This is that incident, though, Joe. This is our leader, Nick Horvath. He just carries too much speed, spins it around, and you're right. Michael Broomhead, I think, just narrowly clips him.
Here it is right here. Oh, that was big net code, though. Should not really have counted, I think. And they're splitting on either side. Great job by Connor and Keenan in the process, too.
Well, and you saw the damage on Broomhead's car, and it was netcode. It snapped back into place. So Michael Broomhead actually kind of the lucky recipient. 2 races in a row. He collected the race win last time. Now he finds himself in second.
Michael, I should pull back the curtain a little bit. He's one of the organizers of this series that helps make this all happen. I'm wondering if he's regretting making this a non-points round for himself.
It always works out that way, doesn't it, Joe?
Yeah. Well, it's a tough track. We don't want it to count for points. And then suddenly you find yourself maybe with multiple podiums throughout the day. Connor's still going to try and deny him a second here, but up at the front of them, it's now a 2-second gap from Welker to Broomhead, and we've got 4 minutes left to go on the clock, so probably about 3 laps to go.
Looks like Janitas is starting to turn up the heat a little bit. I don't think there is any damage on Broomhead's car, but I don't know. I'm not the one driving it. Here comes Connor's going to make a look into turn 1.
Can he make the pass stick? He's going to go in deep, and it looks like he's got that one, unless we get an over-under here from Broomhead, but no dice. Sounds like we got something happening with Zippy, but we'll get to that in a second, because here comes Michael Broomhead back at him once again. As soon as you make that pass, it is not over, and trying to pull his own little over-under doesn't quite work, as Janitas blocks him at the apex, and so he will have to sit behind. Let's go to Zippy with some information.
Oh my gosh, as you were saying about Broomhead and the points, like, I think the biggest phrase for him right now is you don't score until you score. And it's a shame it's not a points round for him. He'd be doing great, but he's certainly trying as if it's every last point, going.
And that's a good point right there, is that this is an all for fun round, and he is fighting like this is for the championship. So what is he going to be like when we get to the points races, as he tries to overtake Connor, but isn't quite close enough to get the overlap? This is all hurting them tremendously. If they had any sights of catching Mitchell Welker, he's now 3.5 seconds ahead of them, and coming down to 2 laps to go.
Broomhead has not given up, and neither has Keenan Harris back here in the number 18 car. And I think Keenan, he's kind of licking his lips right now. You saw Connor work his way around Michael Broomhead, and maybe he's eyeing that final spot on the podium.
Cross the line with just enough time to go here. So the 2 to go marker for all of them, as Welker takes another fastest lap of the race now with a 37 flat. Man, he is flying just quick lap after quick lap out there, but we're watching from Keenan, who is still 7 tenths behind Broomhead. Broomhead about 3 tenths behind Janitas. all to decide these last steps on the podium. Don't think they're close enough to see them change hands here down into turn 3, and no, they are not.
Yeah, but you saw the tremendous entry speed from Michael Broomhead once again, hitting his marks through the slow technical section all over the back of Connor Janitas, and you see Connor really having to wag the tail through there. I think Connor's feeling some pressure from the 00.
Absolutely, and as he weaves a little bit here down the backstretch to try to position himself where he wants, he covers the inside. He knows he's given a big slipstream here to Michael. Michael just forces him to cover off the inside for him, maybe tries to switch back, but can't get the car underneath in time. He goes back to single file for now. And earlier I was talking about the Canadian pride for drivers like Horvath. I just realized as well, I think Connor rocking the Villeneuve helmet.
Oh, yeah, we'll have to get a close-up on that one. I'm seeing an old-school Honda logo on the front of that thing, so I think you might be right.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, Mitchell Welker is representing the USA here in this series, and the 76 now takes the white flag, 1 to go, with another fastest lap of the race down to a 36.9.
I told you, I liked what I saw out of Mitchell Welker early on. I thought that he was just much more calm in his driving, how he was approaching the track, how he was approaching the overtakes, and even once he got out front, he's continued that same relentless pace.
And we've been so focused on these two, we missed some action. It sounds like Zippy had his eyes on it. What happened to Harris?
It looked like he just went in the corner a little bit hot. The rear end, I'm finding it's pretty light in these cars today. And it just spanned, but thankfully no damage, and he can keep going.
All right, so still a 4th place for him, but just not looking at a potential podium here. That's still being decided. Here is the replay of the incident. And so did a very good job keeping it out of the wall there, coming through turn 6, which often results in some damage, I must say. And here we go, down to 7. Janitas over Broomhead, not close enough. He'll have to try again a little bit later, and it'll take something aggressive, I think, to really make it stick, because usually you don't see passes through these remaining corners on the track.
No, however, Connor has been really yawing out that car. There's a mistake out of Broomhead, a little bit slow. I think that's going to separate them enough.
Meanwhile, at the front, Mitchell Welker managed to have the lead fall into his lap, but he's making up for a mistake last time. Mitchell Welker is going to take the win here in race number 2 for the Brawl at Belle Isle. Janitas will be able to hold on to P2, and Broomhead will finish 3rd, with Keenan Harris a sheepish 4th.
Here comes Stuart Ross, going to claim a top 5 out of all of this. Had that mistake in turn 3 on lap 1. What if he didn't? You know, had a good race, but I feel like this is definitely one of the cars to watch here in Heat 3.
I do see he had a spin at one point, because I see a slow lap or two out there. So I think he still had some other things that slowed him down a little bit. And then poor Horvath, who maybe could have fought for that win, although he was being caught, kind of did himself in. He was still on the lead lap there in 6, and Laban is going to quietly bring himself to a 7th on the lead lap, it looks like.
Keep on trucking. Out there is Keith Laban's game for the first 2. Maybe we'll see this 42 get up there and race it out in heat number 3, especially with the reverse grid.
Yep, and let's go over those results from this race as well. Mitchell Welker, your winner, with Connor Janitas in 2nd. Then it was Michael Broomhead finishing P3, and Keenan Harris in 4th. Stuart Ross finished P5, followed by Nick Horvath, who unfortunately dropped out in 6th. Keith Laban in 7th. Craig Willis, unfortunately, the victim of a big wreck there in 8th. Same thing with Peterson in 9th and Zach Buchanan in 10th. They did not make it back out onto the track. So they get a little bit of a warm-up here, about 5 minutes before they head back to the grid for race number 3. So they'll get some time to reset, thankfully, and try to mentally wrap themselves around what just happened. And they'll get to do it all over again, but with the reverse order.
Well, Joe, what did just happen?
A lot. That was, my goodness. And honestly, I have to say, I felt like that was a lot cleaner the second time around. I feel like we're seeing a lot of improvements from the drivers in that second race, Joey, at least from my perspective. Obviously, we had that big wreck early that took out a few, but after that, man, what a battle that was for second place between three drivers.
I couldn't agree more. And not just the three drivers, but this car and this track combination. Now, I personally am not a big fan of this layout. I don't really race here a whole lot, but you put these cars, which are essentially oversized go-karts, on a street circuit. There's multiple lanes out there. You can go side by side. We've seen 3-wide racing already happen. There's plenty of room to move around. This is a great car and track combination.
I'd love to bring in Zippy here because you're very familiar with a lot of these drivers. You've raced against many of them personally. Seen guys like Mitcher, Connell, and Broomhead being sent to the back. Do you think they have what it takes to stay out of trouble and push to the front?
I think it's going to be a really, really interesting race going to this final round. The guys are really learning. Obviously, the first one, it's always like it's a little bit busy, it's a little bit hectic. And, the second one, I find it calmed down a little bit more. But I raced with a lot of these guys. So, like Michael Broomhead, Nick Horvath, Dave Peterson, Zachary Buchanan. These guys are all very, very capable drivers. I'm actually expecting a bit more from Zach, having raced him like really, really closely one-on-one. I think he's just not had the luck he's needed to try and stay out of trouble. But Broomhead, like, seriously, buy a lottery ticket. It's been like the day of all days for him. Like, people should be envious. Horvath, on the other hand, definitely needs to get medical insurance if this was a real car. Like,
oh yeah, talk about it. Poor Nick was not able to bring himself another good finish there, despite going from a pole to finishing second place in that first race and looking like he had something good going for him, but just all kind of fell apart with one little mistake, unfortunately. Got about 2 more minutes before we head off to the grid of the third one. And there you can see as he took off, indeed, he took the lead away very, very early. And there's that contact that we saw through the first corner. That was actually, we were very lucky there, Joey, that touch there between, I think it was Connor and Keenan coming together didn't result in the whole field piling into the back of them.
Yeah, that was right there in turn 2. Not much room to go. And yeah, lucky it didn't spiral into something worse. And speaking, because you guys were talking about Nick Horvath here, I thought he did a tremendous job on this start here. And the both mistakes that I saw out of Heat 1 and Heat 2 out of him, it was just a little bit too much entry speed, and that resulted in a loose car. He spun the car around. The first one resulted into the wall. The second one, he kept it off of the wall, but then unfortunately had some damage. And I think if he just backs it up, I know that as a racing car driver, sometimes this is odd advice, but if you drive the car slower, you actually end up going faster, and I think that's what Nick Horvath should do out there.
that's exactly the point I was going to make. So the gentleman who got me into iRacing, he's not the fastest guy in the grid, but he is certainly one of the cleanest. And the biggest thing that I learned from him, which admittedly it took me a bit longer than it should have done to learn, was low risk, high reward. When you're already in the lead, you don't need to be pushing it as hard, weigh up the pros and cons. Like, all right, you can try and get that extra 10th, but at the end of the day, you need to finish the race to win the race.
I believe it was Alain Prost who once said, "I try to win the race as slow as possible." And yeah, I think that is good advice, especially at a track like this. Is we're going to head off to our grid for the last race, and it is reverse order. So if you can't do that on your own, let's go through the starters. As Zach Buchanan is going to be starting on the pole after finishing 10th in the first 2 races. Dave Peterson will be second, and Craig Willis will be third. And then it is Keith Lobbin in 4th. Nick Horvath starts 5th with Stuart Ross in 6th. Keenan Harris 7th. Michael Broomhead in 8th. Connor Janitas will start from 9th. And the farthest back that we will see Mitchell Welker start from 10th here after he took that win. Looks like we're just waiting on the last couple cars to grid up, and then we will go. I don't believe, though, looks like Craig Willis has had a connection problem, so we might have to wait the full 2 minutes since they are waiting for all the cars to grid up.
Yeah, I still think we're waiting on just a few. And I know that, look at this track temperature, Joe, almost up to 100 degrees. So it is rising. Have to keep an eye going into turn 3. Big brake zone.
And look at the wind. These are not downforce heavy cars, as it looks like the lights are up and the green flag is out. And Zach Buchanan looking very strong off the line. In fact, we're missing 3 cars here. Only 7 are going to start this race as we come down into the first corner. And it looks like it is going to be Buchanan who leads them down into turn 3. Peterson in second, with Horvath going 3 wide for a brief moment, fighting with Ross and Harris. Harris is going to back out. Ross trying to get the inside away from Horvath into turn 3, and he's going to get it.
Crucially, Stuart Ross claims that 3rd position in turn 3. Oh, Zachary Buchanan, our leader. Problems there, brushing the wall in his number 40 car. We're going to see if that resulted in any damage, but Dave Peterson already right on the back.
Wow, interesting start to this one, but Buchanan is liking it. He wants to try and run away. Let's see if he can keep ahead of Pearson. He's not been having good results so far in this race, and a 10th and a 10th place, both last in each of the first 2 races as they break down into turn 7. He's a little slow, and an attempt from Peterson does not move him by. Oh, as now we get a little bit of tangling and cutting across the track. Cars scattered to avoid Horvath and Ross, who spin around.
Yeah, Stuart Ross got into the back of Nick Horvath. They're both still stopped on the racetrack trying to get it turned around, and look who just scooted through. He started in pit lane, Mitchell Welker.
Okay, so Welker makes it 8 cars now, and he's got to catch up by about 9 seconds. Does he have the pace to do that? He's got 15 minutes, a little less than 15 minutes to try and gun down our leader. But Buchanan looking for a last to first, not quite how we usually define it, as he comes out of the second turn over the bridge and keeps it out of the wall for now. Peterson hot on his heels, trying to make this a tough one for him.
I'm really liking the way this race has developed here, as Dave Peterson's going to stay behind our leader, Zachary Buchanan, into turn 3. But this reverse grid creates chaos. But these are 2 drivers that we haven't seen out front today. And look at how close they're racing. They're still running away with it.
Peterson doesn't want to give this one up. He's had a 6th and a 9th so far, so he could use a good result here. Does he try and make it a win, or will he settle for a 2nd place if he can't seem to overtake this bright yellow car? And we've got a replay, it sounds like, on the race start. Let's take another look at this one and see what happened with that 3 wide moment, because up at the front, they were separated by quite a bit here through Casino Way and onto Central Avenue, but behind them, my goodness, it erupted.
Yeah, watch the yellow car. He's going to poke his nose 3 wide between Ross and Horvath, and then he thinks better of it. He backs out of it, and then it's up to Ross and Horvath to settle it out.
And the lead is under threat. So once we're done with this replay, Buchanan had Peterson trying to go by, but couldn't do it in the fountain section. I got to give it to the 35. I mean, he is trying his heart out to try and overtake that number 40, but just can't seem to find a way past him yet.
Well, not only is Dave Peterson up on it, but I think Zachary Buchanan is having a heck of a race right now, really flying through this track, hitting his marks, not really making any mistakes out front. And maybe that's exactly what these 2 needed, is just a little bit of clean air to go out there, the pressure off of the shoulders.
And as they come down into turn 3, not quite close enough that he can make the pass, but boy, is he threatening. And thought he was going to poke his nose. He does, down into 4, but then decides against it and gets back behind Zach Buchanan once more. We heard not long ago as we were chatting between the races, it is risk versus reward. And I think Peterson's being smart about this.
Yes, he is showing his nose in some areas that are a little bit risky, but he hasn't gone up there and really poked his nose into an area that has been a bad spot yet. It's up to our leader, Zachary Buchanan, with a lockup. He's into the wall.
So as they come through into the fountain section, did I get information in the background that Horvath had a crash here? Sounds, yeah, like he has lost a ton of time. He's down to 8th now, as Stuart Ross is ahead of him. So that is a bit disappointing, because I think he maybe could have tried to climb through. Let's see if we've got a little replay here. Oh, so this, yes, this was the crash that maybe
That was
I think we were.
lap 1.
Yeah, that's what I had forgotten already. So again, so much has been happening in these races. I'd forgotten that was Horvath involved in that.
Yeah, he has had an adventurous day, I think, and I think that he's looking to not smell like tire smoke at the end of this one. I think I just saw Dave Peterson knock the wall there in turn 2, but we saw our leader, Zachary Buchanan, knock the wall the lap prior. We've seen cars bouncing off of the concrete walls and still be okay.
I think you're right. Also, as we've been seeing, that Welker has been going purple this race and catching up to them. Here is the second incident for Nick Horvath that completely put him at the back of the field. And yeah, the wheel popped back, so thankfully did not hit it as hard as it made it appear initially. But there goes the 63 of Stuart Ross, and Horvath is out. He's just retired.
Jumping back up. Yeah, Horvath just, like I said, not the day that he wants to have. I think he's looking forward to leaving Detroit really fast. And Dave Peterson not giving up on our leader, Zachary Buchanan. And I mentioned it, the 40 doing an excellent job out front, really hitting his marks. A totally different race for these front two than our previous 2 races.
So down into turn 12 now. The corner that has taken many victims already. Doesn't take him this time. They're going to stay out of it. Peterson has been a thorn in the side of that number 40. We're halfway through this race. Kind of surprised that Keenan Harris hasn't been able to catch up to them. And behind them, Broomhead's been having some problems keeping the car from getting sideways here. I think into turn 12. Let's see. No, this is into turn 1. Woo!
Turn 1 it's one of the fastest corners on the racetrack, Joe. And trust me, it is not for the faint of heart. Cars get written off all the time there.
Exactly. It's very fast for a turn 1. Most turn 1s, you tend to see them be a little bit slower to offer passing opportunities. Not here at this street circuit. You got to really be quick through that chicane. Meanwhile, Peterson here off of Buchanan onto the strand is still hanging out behind him, not able to catch up to him. And in fact, we've seen a couple times that he's just glazed the wall a little bit here and there. Can only get away with that so many times, I would think.
Oh, now they're really deep for both of them, and now Peterson in the wall.
Like I said, sometimes you're going to run out of luck trying to push the limit there. So he falls out of second place after he was just positioning himself so well to pick up the pieces if Buchanan, but it was Peterson who blinked first this time.
And Zach Buchanan was in really deep himself, so I think he got away with one, knocked off one of those 9 lives from our leader.
And is Keenan Harrison going to maybe pick that up if Buchanan does manage to make enough of a mistake here? Because there he is. You can see only about 2.5 seconds behind. He'd have to make up some ground if he wants to actually overtake him legitimately. But if we get another spin out of that 40, then he could easily just breeze on past. We still have 5 cars racing on track, but we've lost Peterson, Ross, and Horvath.
Now, my main talking point here is going to be Mitch Welker. What is he going to be able to do in the last 6 minutes? If you look at the time delta, he's really not that far off. He's finally caught Connor Janitis back here in the number 44, so don't count that number 76 out.
Absolutely. Yeah, only 5 seconds behind starting from pit lane. This is impressive stuff. He's definitely cut it down. Sounded like we had a replay of Horvath's final incident. We might stick with this first. We'll see if there's a pass on hand because Welker's looking dangerously close to Connor. The 44 is going to try to defend, but he leaves just enough of the door open. Breaking deep down into the fountain section. Can he keep it out of the wall? It was mighty close. He was right to the edge, but the 76 is now onto the podium.
Really forced him all the way to that dirty line. You see the 76 just barely scrape the wall through the fountain, but that hasn't been hurting cars at all. Next one up on Mitchell Welker's list is the yellow number 18 of Keenan Harris.
All right, now I think that this battle is done. I think we've got Horvath's replay. He's officially DNF'd. Peterson officially has DNF'd. He is out. Ross is trying to take some repairs. This looks like turn 12, and that looks like it was turn 12 as he bounced it off the wall, and he's done and parks it down in pit lane. So, despite the low number of cars, we've been getting some fantastic action out there. Welker with a second and a half to make up to Harris, 4 seconds to make up to Buchanan. But credit to the 40. I thought he was going to get gobbled up by everybody, and he's just been running smooth sailing for this whole race.
I sounded like a little bit of a broken record earlier, but you're right, Joe. Zach Buchanan has taken advantage of the opportunity that's been presented to him. He started up front. He's got clean air. He hasn't made any mistakes to really put him back into any fight. So keep on trucking up there, number 40.
44 holding on to Welker, too. He's not letting him get away quite yet, but there is Zach Buchanan breaking down into turn 7 once again, right up to the wall. He's got this out, measured out pretty well, so maybe it was just some bad luck in those first 2 rounds that he couldn't stay out of the trouble. We're going to ride on board with Zach, the Project 2 racer, breaking down into turn 11, right up to the wall as he now accelerates on his way along towards Sunset Drive.
I've been watching how his driving style is. He's not scared to throw the car into the corner. Zachary Buchanan kind of happy with the tail end wagging out, which honestly, it's how you need to have the car. You need to have it rotate.
And this is going to be close once again. I think he's going to have 3 laps to go here because he was just a little long on that one to make it a 2 laps to go mark, since I think it'd be about 3:14 for him to be able to get the 2 to go signal on that one. Welker's cut it down to 0.6 of a second behind Harris. He's coming quickly.
Closed it in even more through turn 3, the number 76 car did, and depending on how he rolls through this technical section, might be able to line up the draft off of the back straightaway, just like how he did to Connor Janitas. Ooh, getting a little close to the wall there.
Here we go, on to the strand. He's going to have the slipstream, but I don't think it's quite close enough as they look for the braking into turn 7. Mitchell won't want to waste time here. I don't think he's got enough laps that he could chase down Buchanan, but he has been cutting down pretty quickly. Here he slides a little bit. He keeps it off the wall. He also has to make sure he doesn't throw this race away.
Don't overstep your own limit. Drive the racetrack out there. We saw how hot the temperatures were getting, so the car is definitely slip sliding around. Just give yourself a little bit more room.
And you know who's making good use of this? Zippy's noted something. Zippy, it looks like Connor's making himself a bit of a nuisance to this battle.
Yeah, I've got a feeling he's just quietly sitting back, enjoying the slipstream and hoping things go sideways so he can just do what Stuart Rossium's just done, and even more so Mike Broom had today, and just dive down the middle and say thank you very much.
Well, there's the dive down the inside, and that's going to give him second place to Mitchell Welker. And Janitas was not close enough to capitalize. Maybe he could catch and pass Keenan Harris, though.
And here comes Keenan Harris. He's not letting go of Mitchell Welker. Can he stay in that draft, in that slipstream? They're both pretty late on the brakes. I'm seeing Keenan Harris stick with this.
And Connor, we saw there, was leaving nothing on the table. He just clipped the wall. In fact, I think he had another hit with the wall. That one was a lot harder. I don't think that's going to help him, as Buchanan is now only 1.3 seconds ahead. He knows that Welker is faster, and he's going to get the white flag next time by. Zach's fastest lap is a 38.1. Welker's fastest is a 37.2.
It is on, Joe, because Mitchell Welker is on his fastest lap right now, or at least he's trending fastest. And I'm seeing Zach Buchanan half a second slower. Look at this. We've got a race to settle it out.
It is 1 second between them right now. So Mitchell Welker picking it up, knowing that the race win is on the cards. He took an 8th place finish in the first race. He took a win in the second one. Can he go back to back and actually go from last to first here, having been sent back to 10th on this race? White flag being held aloft by Barney. It is 1 to go.
Zach Buchanan just needs to keep it together. Turn off the mirrors. Don't even look at your relative. You've already done 9 perfect laps. Just keep it together one more time.
And Zippy, we've seen Zach have 2 last places. What kind of driver is he? Is he going to accept the 2nd place, or will he fight for this win?
Oh, he's not going to give that up without a fight. This man, I've seen him in a radical. He knows how to position that car. If he wants to defend that inside line, he's gonna.
He's gonna have
Just
to.
like that.
Yeah, I think, because here's Welker. He's reached him. Now he has to make the pass. It's one thing to catch Joey. It's another to overtake.
This has been Welker's favorite part of the racetrack, though. Get the power down, going down the back straightaway. He's going to have the opportunity. He's already tucked in the draft.
Hearts are pounding. They know this is for the win. It might not be for points, but this is for bragging rights here. Can he get a back-to-back win? He's around the outside. He's going to have to do it the hard way. He could run out of track, and he does.
Oh, what a defense from Zachary Buchanan. Didn't take it too deep. Now it's through the fountain. Just keep it together for a couple more turns. Not many options here for Mitchell Welker.
Covers the inside into 11 just to be sure. He's a little slow off the corner. Once again, parks it down in the middle of the track to dissuade Mitchell from trying to overtake him here through these last few corners. He's right up on him, almost touching that gearbox out of the final turn. Is it enough? It's looking like it. Zach Buchanan, despite 2 last place finishes, is going to go lights to flag for the win in the last race of tonight.
Terrific race from Zachary Buchanan. Mitchell Welker second, Keenan Harris on the podium.
Keenan was very close to that. Top 3 were half a second apart at the line. Connor was still only 2 more seconds behind them as well to take a 4th place. And the last of our 5 that are able to still be running at the finish is going to be Michael Broomhead here, as he brings it across very lonely, unfortunately, at the end. In fact, the car looks like it's crabbing pretty badly, if I'm honest. We're going to take a quick break, though. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Detroit. Our 3 races saw lots of action, and at the final one, Zach Buchanan withstood immense pressure to take a win, only a 10th ahead of Mitchell Welker, who tried to take 2 of the wins but couldn't quite do it. Still, he got a first and a second out there, along with, unfortunately, an 8th place in the first race. But Keenan Harris was third to round out our last podium. Connor Janitas behind them in 4th, with Michael Broomhead, the last one to see the finish in that race in P5. Dave Peterson was 6th with the DNF. Stuart Ross, also a DNF there in 8th position. 7th position. Nick Horvath in 8th, and Craig Willis and Keith Lobbin did not start the race. I wonder if we could talk to Zach Buchanan first here, since he won that last race, and that was an impressive showing from him. We've got the 280s, the 40 car in with us now, and Zach, amazing stuff to stay cool under pressure, because it looked like you didn't quite have the pace that Mitchell did, but you had the nerves that he didn't, apparently.
I guess so. Despite my best efforts, I got to the end there after crashing so much tonight. Yeah. I had nothing for Mitch. I mean, Mitch has been my teammate for a long time, and he's just quicker than me. So it felt good to fend him off for once.
Well, talk about what happened in those first 2 races, because that, considering you kept Dave Peterson behind you, he was the one that blinked first between you, and then you kept Mitchell from being able to pass you at the very end. That was an impressive job. What changed between those first 2 races and that one, as we just saw you slide through turn 4 on the replay there?
I mean, in the practice we did, I couldn't really get comfy with the track. Like, I kept tapping the wall. I had no speed. Like, the quickest I could do was like 2 seconds off of Mitch's time. That first race, I forget who it was, but he kind of parked it on the apex of a corner, and I got bumped in the rear, so that was my race done. Second one, I just blew it into one of the final turns there and just slammed it into the wall. So it was just compensating for those mistakes that got me to the end there.
So will you be back when we head off to Zandvoort for the next round?
I sure hope so. I really do like these cars. I just hope we see a few more people show up. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'm hoping to be there.
They are a ton of fun to call. I can only imagine inside the car. Congratulations. Who helped put you in victory lane?
No, like I said, Mitch is my teammate. He gave me some pointers tonight, and seeing him behind me all race kind of pushed me to drive faster. So shout out to him.
That was Zach Buchanan, winner in race 3. Why don't we talk to Mitch Welker here? I think Joey's caught up with him. He won in race 2.
Yeah, Mitchell Welker, congratulations on a couple of podiums here tonight. How do you feel after Detroit?
Pretty good. It's my first kind of competitive league running with the car, so pretty happy with that being at one of my favorite tracks. So that's a good takeaway.
Well, now talk to us about the car and this track specifically, because what we saw was some tremendous racing, almost like some extra large go-karts stuck out on a street circuit out there. How was it from the driver's perspective?
Well, Belle Isle's always a great time, but the racing was even better with these little thin, tiny little cars where it's not an Indy car where you're struggling to fit cars side by side through places, but you got way more room then, as a result of the car being small, to get these cool side-by-side battles everywhere, as you saw. So yeah, I'd rate it pretty highly.
Now, talk us through the last couple laps there where you were hunting down Zach Buchanan. It seemed like you had a little bit more pace there, but you were on your marks, race 2 and race 3, not overshooting any braking areas. Did you just run out of time, or what were you looking for to get by the number 40?
Yeah, I just needed one more lap. His defense to the right side down the back straight was pretty critical in the last lap. Could have made a move there if not for that. Yeah, just needed one more lap. I had to start from the pits because I had a VR issue. So if not for that as well, I think I would have had the extra race time to be able to get by him.
Well, Mitchell, before I let you go, is there anybody that you want to give a shout out to, say hi to?
Yeah, shout out to Zach. He's my teammate that got me into this. I'm the only American in this Canadian league. So, but I'm Minnesotan, and I think it counts. So yeah, shout out to him for getting me in, and we'll hopefully have a good point season after this.
Awesome. Well, that was Mitchell Welker, a pair of podiums as well as a race win here today at Detroit.
And finally, I believe Zippy has caught up with our first winner of the night, Michael Broomhead.
Hey, Mike, welcome to the booth. Be honest, how lucky do you feel right now? Is this like a Friday night and you've dressed up for the occasion, or is it just like, how on earth did I manage that? Talk us through it.
Give it to me. That's very nice of them. You know, I obviously putting this together. It's very nice of them to give me a gift back.
Oh, that was excellent. Next track, where are we heading? And do you reckon we can see more than 4 cars going wide into a turn?
I think it's Zandvoort, to be honest. I should know that. I usually set these things. But yeah, hopefully that's the goal. Obviously, we didn't have Gladiator Road Racing. They usually bring quite a lot of vehicles, quite a lot of cars out. So we're hoping to get more and more. So, you know, it's this race was supposed to entice people, but only enticed a few. So at least we got a few new names in there. Hopefully you keep building and building. It's a new series, so let's just keep going with the momentum.
Well, not only that, Rome wasn't built in a day, and a lot of it still stands, right? So if you do the same with your league, you're going to be set pretty good. Lastly, where you are one of the organizers, and you did actually miss the first 2 rounds, this was supposed to be like a fun round, but having had 2 podiums, is it now a point scored event?
No, I'll stick by the original plan. No, this was a lot of fun. Obviously, everybody drives differently in races like this. They just, you know, maybe they go for a move where they wouldn't normally. But either way, great fun racing with these guys. It was really good to get out with some of them again. I've raced Keenan in go-karts a long time ago. And I think I raced Keith. Was it Keith today, Loban? I raced him a long time ago as well in these things. So it's good to get back out there and, you know, moving on to Zandvoort, another points race. Hopefully we'll get more people out and keep it going, like I say.
It was definitely good to see some of the people that we've raced with before as well. Like you said, you raced with Keenan, but I've seen a lot of the Radical guys out there, and I'm hoping they really adapted well to the car. I know it's definitely a completely different kind of beast to tame, but how did you feel about it in terms of switching between the Radical and this?
Honestly, right now, this car is a lot more fun. Sorry, Radical, but it's you know what? It kind of acts how it would in real life. It's sort of just throw it in and slide it around. It has a lot of throttle steering. Basically, you can apply the throttle and just really pin the back end in, and off throttle rotation is pretty good. So you can really play with it. That's what makes these cars a lot of fun. But yeah, the Radical guys did well. Obviously, Peterson had an issue there, but it was actually Cannon obviously leading the way. He said he was slow, but I mean, he beat everybody in that last race, including Mitch Welker. So that's a pretty tall order. But yeah, hopefully some of the Radical guys can come out and everybody else too.
Well, that was Mike Broomhead, Britannia iSports, and I'm going to pass you back to Joe Peak.
Indeed, which is going to close us out for the evening. And again, a big thank you to the league for bringing us back for another season of coverage. Well, the first season of coverage, really. And thanks to the team today, Daniel, Joey, Dougie, and Zippy. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. As you heard, the next race, which will be a points race again, will be at Zandvoort Monday, May 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern. Also, be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed here, because up next, the Porsche Owners Club goes to Fuji at 11 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.
Wow.